AITA for demanding that my niece, or her parents, pay me back for the hundreds of dollars of perfume she stole from me. I 34F have been building my perfume collection since I was a teenager. My first job was slinging burritos at a fast food joint, and ever since then, I've had a love for perfumes and have been building a collection that I'm incredibly proud of. This isn't just a casual collection. I have over 400 bottles, from niche fragrances to the classics, and each one has a story and a special place in my heart. It's something I've put a lot of money, effort, and time into curating over the years, and I use my collection regularly. I love sharing it too. I'm happy to give decants to friends, let people try different scents, and I've even given full bottles as gifts if I thought it would make someone's day. So when I recently found out that my 17-year-old niece, I'll call her Kayla, had been taking advantage of my collection, I was furious. Kayla lives about 15 minutes away from me, and I've always been pretty close to my sister Kayla's mom and her family. When Kayla got her driver's license, I thought it would be nice to ask her to come over and walk my dog, Winston, whenever I needed a bit of help. She loves animals, and Winston absolutely adores her, so it felt like a win-win. I'd pay her for her time, and I thought it would be good for her to have some extra cash while helping me out. Everything was going fine for the first few months. She'd come over, walk Winston, play with him, and I never thought anything of it. But then I started noticing that my perfumes were looking a little different. A few bottles seemed lower than I remembered, and some had dents in them that just didn't match how much I'd used. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. I mean, when you have over 400 bottles, it's easy to assume you've misremembered how much of each one you've used. But things started getting worse. Some of my favorites were noticeably less full, and a bottle of Baccarat Rouge was completely missing. This wasn't just any perfume. Baccarat Rouge 540 is one of the most popular niche fragrances out there, and it runs over $300 for a 2.5 ounces bottle. I looked everywhere for it, thinking maybe I'd misplaced it, but no luck. Then I started taking mental inventory of some other bottles, and I noticed more discrepancies. Some Marc Jacobs Daisy, gone. Burberry Her Elixir, half empty. My beloved Flower Bomb, a significant dent in it. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was really off, but I still wanted to believe that maybe I was somehow mistaken. Then, one day, while scrolling through Instagram, I stumbled upon Kayla's private account. She had it set up so that only her close friends could follow it, but I happened to be one of the lucky ones on her friends list for now, anyway. What I saw on her stories made my blood boil. There were multiple Instagram stories of her showcasing little perfume vials with handwritten labels, and she was selling them. She had prices written out for each decant, ranging anywhere from $10 to $50 depending on how much was in the vial and how popular the fragrance was. She had even included little reviews of each scent, like she was some kind of influencer. And, as I scrolled through her stories, I started recognizing the names of my perfumes. Bianco Latte, Escapade Gourmand, Baccarat Rouge 540, Flower Bomb, they were all there. Each vial meticulously labeled, each story listing the price and hyping up how exclusive the scents were. I was stunned. I felt so betrayed. This wasn't just a couple of sprays. She was actively decanting my perfumes and making money off them. I couldn't believe it. The audacity to come into my home, take advantage of the fact that I trusted her, and steal from me under the guise of helping me out with my dog. I was livid. I sat down and started tallying up the cost of what she'd taken, and let me tell you, it wasn't cheap. Thankfully, she mostly went for the TikTok famous perfumes like Bianco Latte and Escapade Gourmand, which, while pricey, aren't the rarest in my collection. But that Baccarat Rouge bottle alone was over $300, and she'd taken full bottles of several other well-known fragrances. All in all, I estimated that she'd taken over $1,000 worth of perfumes, probably more when considering the cost per ounce and factoring in the decants she'd sold. I decided enough was enough. I wasn't going to let this slide. I printed out the entire list of what she'd taken, along with the estimated cost for each one, and I drove over to my sister's house. I handed the list to my sister and explained everything: how Kayla had been stealing from me, how I'd found out through her Instagram, and how much she owed me. I made it very clear that I expected to be paid back in full for everything that was taken. My sister looked at the list and immediately got defensive. She started with the whole Kayla is just a kid spiel. Kids make mistakes, she didn't know any better, she said. I pointed out that this wasn't a harmless mistake, this was premeditated. Kayla had been decanting my perfumes, labeling them, and selling them on Instagram for weeks, if not months. She knew exactly what she was doing. Then my sister started getting angry, saying that I was being too harsh and that now Kayla wouldn't be able to buy the car she'd been saving up for. Apparently, the money she made from selling my perfumes was going towards buying her first car, and now, since I was demanding repayment, she wouldn't have enough. My response: I don't care. Actions have consequences, and if Kayla wanted to be a little entrepreneur, she could learn the hard way that stealing is not the way to go about it. My sister tried to guilt-trip me, saying that I was ruining Kayla's chances at getting her car, that she'd been so excited, and that I was being unfair by expecting her to pay me back instead of just letting it go. She even said that I had so many perfumes that I shouldn't even notice a few missing or half-empty bottles. That made me even angrier. Just because I have a large collection doesn't mean it's okay for someone to steal from me. I worked hard for those perfumes, and I'm not about to let someone family or not take advantage of me like that. I told my sister that Kayla was no longer allowed in my home, and that she had two options: pay me back in full, or I'd take further action. I made it very clear that I had no interest in involving the police or going to small claims court, but that I could if it came to that. I thought I was being more than reasonable. I wasn't demanding that Kayla face legal consequences. I just wanted to be reimbursed for what she'd taken. My sister ended up kicking me out of her house, saying that I was being vindictive and that I was going to permanently damage my relationship with Kayla over some perfume. I left, but I stood firm. Kayla hasn't apologized to me directly. I heard through the grapevine that she's devastated about not being able to buy her car, and she's been sulking around the house. Apparently, she thinks I'm being a bitch for ruining her plans. My sister still hasn't paid me back, and every time I bring it up, she gets defensive and says they're working on it. I honestly don't care how long it takes, I just want to be reimbursed for what was stolen from me. After my initial confrontation with my sister and Kayla, I thought things would eventually settle down and we'd be able to come to some sort of agreement about repayment. I wasn't expecting them to hand me a check overnight, but I did expect some kind of progress, maybe a payment plan, or at least some acknowledgement that they were actively working on paying me back. But, as the days turned into weeks, I started realizing that they were just dragging their feet. I decided to give them some time, hoping that they'd come to their senses and realize that this wasn't going away. I thought my sister would understand that, as uncomfortable as this was, Kayla needed to be held accountable. But after about a month of silence, I decided to confront my sister again. So I called her up, hoping we could have a calm conversation about how they were planning to handle this. I started off by asking if they'd made any progress on getting the money together. My sister immediately started in with her usual excuses. "Oh, things are tight right now. We're working on it, but it's been a tough month. Kayla is saving up for her car, and this is really hard on her." I tried to stay patient, but I reminded her that it had already been a month, and I hadn't seen a single cent or heard any kind of plan. I said that I was willing to work with them, but that I couldn't just let this go on indefinitely without any kind of resolution. That's when my sister hit me with something that completely blindsided me. "Well, I think you should actually be thanking Kayla," she said, with a hint of smugness in her voice. I was stunned. Thanking her, for what? I asked, genuinely confused. "For selling those perfumes," she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "She put in a lot of effort, and from what I can tell, she made a decent profit. You should be thinking about how you can work with her on this. I mean, it's not like she wasted the perfume, she actually made money, and you could keep doing it if you wanted. She even told me she'd be willing to help you sell more if you gave her a cut of the profits." I could feel my blood boiling. I didn't even know how to respond at first. "Are you seriously suggesting that I owe Kayla for stealing my perfumes?" I finally managed to say. My sister sighed like I was being unreasonable. "I'm just saying, maybe this could be an opportunity. She did all that work, and she's good at it. She already has a bunch of people interested. You have hundreds of bottles, you don't even use most of them. This could be a way for you to make some extra cash, and she could help. It could be a win-win. I was honestly in shock. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't just a misunderstanding or a difference of opinion. My sister was actually trying to reframe Kayla's theft as some kind of business opportunity for me. Like Kayla had done me a favor by stealing my stuff, decanting it, and selling it without my permission. I tried to stay calm, but I couldn't help it. I ended up snapping at her. I told her that this wasn't about making money, that my collection was mine, and that I hadn't spent years building it just to have someone come in, steal it, and then try to make a profit off it. I told her that Kayla had no right to take anything, and that I was not interested in turning my personal collection into some side hustle. And I certainly wasn't going to be giving Kayla a cut of anything. My sister rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic and that I needed to think practically about this. She said that Kayla was just trying to be entrepreneurial and that I was crushing her spirit by being so rigid about everything. She even said that if I was so obsessed with getting paid back, maybe I should consider giving Kayla a portion of whatever money she had made so far so she could pay me back in installments like I was supposed to reward her for stealing from me. I couldn't believe the audacity. I reminded her, again, that Kayla had stolen from me. This wasn't some minor teenage mistake. This was calculated. She'd come into my home, decanted my perfumes, taken full bottles, and sold them without my knowledge or consent. This was theft, plain and simple, and the fact that my sister was trying to spin it like I was the one being unreasonable was just beyond comprehension. I told her that I wasn't interested in any kind of partnership, and that all I wanted was my money back. I said that the longer this dragged on, the more I was considering involving legal action, and I wasn't bluffing. I honestly didn't want to go down that road, but I was getting to a point where I felt like I had no other choice. My sister, of course, got angry and told me I was being heartless, that I was going to ruin my relationship with Kayla, and that I needed to let it go and just move on. I asked her how she'd feel if someone came into her house, took something she cared about, and sold it for their own gain. Would she just let it go? Would she just be happy about it? She didn't answer that. Instead, she just said that Kayla was just a kid and that I was being unfair. At that point, I realized I wasn't going to get anywhere with her, and I hung up. So, after my last conversation with my sister, I started feeling more and more hopeless. It was obvious to me that she had no intention of making Kayla take responsibility, and that any idea of repayment was going to be a long, drawn-out battle. But something kept bugging me, and it was the fact that throughout this entire ordeal, Kayla still hadn't reached out to apologize or even talk to me directly. So, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I called Kayla. I figured it was worth a shot to try to understand where her head was at and, at the very least, see if she was willing to show some accountability on her own. It wasn't an easy decision to make, but I needed answers. I needed to hear directly from her why she thought any of this was okay. When Kayla answered, she was clearly caught off guard. I kept my voice as calm as I could, and I started by asking her if she had anything she wanted to say to me. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Finally, she said, "I don't know what you want me to say." I took a deep breath and tried not to let my frustration show. "How about I'm sorry," I said. "You took things that didn't belong to you, you sold them, and you never even thought to apologize. I think that's a good place to start." Kayla let out a sigh, and I could hear the teenage attitude dripping from her voice as she responded. "I mean, yeah, I guess I'm sorry or whatever. But you don't understand. I was trying to make money for my car. I thought I could just sell some samples, and then I'd give you the money back once I had enough. I didn't think it was a big deal." I was honestly stunned. "You didn't think it was a big deal?" I repeated. "Kayla, you stole from me. You came into my home, took my things without asking, and sold them. That is a big deal. Why didn't you just ask me if you needed money?" She hesitated for a moment before saying, "Because I knew you wouldn't give it to me. I knew you'd say no, so I just thought I could do it myself and then make it up to you later. I was trying to be independent." I could feel my patience wearing thin, but I still tried to keep my composure. "Kayla, being independent doesn't mean stealing from people. You didn't make it up to me. You haven't given me a single cent back, and you haven't even tried to apologize until now. How did you think this was going to end?" That's when Kayla said something that really shook me. She sighed again and said, "Honestly, I thought you'd get over it. I mean, you have so many perfumes, I didn't think you'd even notice. And when you did, I thought you'd just let it go. I was gonna give you some of the money once I had enough saved, but now you're making such a big deal out of it. I mean, I was just trying to do something for myself. I was gonna pay you back eventually." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So you thought you could just take my things, sell them, and then maybe give me some of the money back if you felt like it?" I asked, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "Kayla, that's not how this works. You can't just take things from people because you think they have enough to spare. That's theft, plain and simple." She was quiet for a moment, and then, to my absolute disbelief, she said, "Well, maybe you should apologize to me for not understanding what I was trying to do. I was trying to save up for my car, I was trying to do something for myself, and you're just making it harder for me." I felt like I was going to explode. "Apologize to you," I said, incredulous. "You think I owe you an apology for not understanding why you stole from me? Kayla, you need to understand that what you did was wrong. You don't get to play the victim here just because you didn't get what you wanted." She still didn't seem to get it. She mumbled something about how I was being too harsh, and how she was just a teenager trying to make her way, and honestly, at that point, I lost it. I reminded her that she hadn't just taken a few sprays, she had taken entire bottles, including a $300 plus bottle of Baccarat Rouge, and she had made money off of my personal collection without my permission. I reminded her that I had worked hard to build that collection, and that she had no right to take any of it. And then I brought up the $1,000. "By the way," I said, "you owe me over $1,000 in total for what you took. Do you even have any of that money left?" She went quiet again, and I knew what the answer was before she even said it. I spent most of it," she admitted. "I bought some clothes, and I went out with my friends. I was going to save it, but..." I closed my eyes, trying to keep my temper in check. "So you didn't even save the money to pay me back," I said. "You just spent it. And now you're acting like I'm the one who's being unreasonable." She started to say something, but I cut her off. "Kayla, I need you to understand something. What you did wasn't just wrong, it was selfish. You didn't think about anyone but yourself, and now you're facing the consequences. I want my money back, and until you pay me back in full, I don't want you in my home. Do you understand me?" She didn't respond right away, and when she finally did, her voice was small. "Yeah, I get it," she said. I didn't think it would end up like this." A couple of days later, my phone rang, and I saw my sister's name flash across the screen. I hesitated for a moment, debating whether or not I even wanted to answer. My gut told me it was going to be another draining conversation, full of excuses and accusations, but I needed to know if they were actually planning to pay me back, so I picked up. The moment I answered, I could hear the tension in my sister's voice. "We can give you the money," she said, her tone clipped, like each word was being dragged out of her. "But I need you to understand that you're really being unfair to Kayla in all of this." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. "Unfair? How exactly am I being unfair, Sarah?" I asked. I wasn't sure I had the energy for another argument, but I was curious about where she was coming from this time. "Kayla stole from me. She sold my things without permission. I just want to be reimbursed for what I lost." My sister sighed deeply. "Yes, I know she took the perfumes. And yes, she sold them. But she's just a teenager, and teenagers make mistakes. You're treating her like she's some kind of criminal. She didn't mean to cause all this trouble, she was just trying to make some money for her car. And she used my belongings to do that," I pointed out, "without asking me. Without any consideration for what those perfumes mean to me or how much they're worth." There was a moment of silence before she responded. "She thought she'd make it up to you eventually. She wasn't trying to hurt you, okay? And now you're demanding all this money back, which is going to set her back months in getting her car. I just think you're being really harsh about this." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My heart started pounding in my chest, and I could feel the heat rising to my face. "Sarah, she didn't even save the money, she spent it. She had no intention of paying me back until she got caught. Look, she cut me off, her voice growing sharper. I've talked to her, and we can scrape together the money to pay you back. But you need to realize that you're not exactly innocent here, either. You're the adult who could have handled this better. I blinked, stunned. How am I not innocent in this situation? I asked, genuinely baffled. All I've done is ask for what's mine. I didn't take anything from Kayla. I didn't steal. I didn't sell her things behind her back. You're the one making it into this huge deal, she shot back. She's a kid who made a mistake, and instead of trying to help her learn from it, you're making her feel like a terrible person. You're turning this into some kind of vendetta. I could feel my frustration bubbling over. Sarah, I'm asking for accountability, that's it. I'm not out here trying to ruin Kayla's life. I just want her to understand that actions have consequences. Well, congratulations, she snapped, her voice dripping with sarcasm. She gets it now. She knows she messed up. But you've taken it way too far, and now she feels like you hate her. I closed my eyes, trying to hold back my irritation. This isn't about hate, Sarah. It's about respect. She disrespected me by taking my things without asking. And now you're defending her, acting like I'm the problem because I want my property back. There was another long silence, and when my sister finally spoke again, her voice was colder. We'll get you your money, but don't expect Kayla to come around anytime soon. You've made her feel like she's a terrible person, and it's going to take a long time for her to get over that. Maybe she should have thought about that before she stole from me, I replied, my voice tinged with sadness. I didn't want things to end this way. I didn't want to be at odds with my niece or my sister. But I also wasn't willing to let this go without standing up for myself. Fine, Sarah said. I'll call you when we have the money. But I hope you know that you're damaging this family. So, Reddit. AITA for demanding that my niece pay me back after she stole and sold samples of my perfume collection. I get that she's a teenager, but I feel like this was way beyond a harmless mistake. It was calculated, deceitful, and it involved coming into my home and stealing from me repeatedly. I'm not interested in involving the authorities or suing anyone, but I do want her to learn that actions have consequences. My sister thinks I'm being cruel, but I think Kayla needs to learn this lesson now before she does something even worse in the future. Am I wrong here?